Are you prepared? That's a question we ask you to ask yourself. It's hurricane season, and that means from now until the end of November, we're at the risk of severe tropical weather. That can mean anything from a tropical depression to a catastrophic hurricane. The end of August 2017.
It's devastating.
And much of southeast Texas has gone underwater.
You know, the water just won't stop. It won't stop. Those poor people, you know,
It rained for 9 days.
One thing about Harvey was it didn't move.
Never in a million years did I expect this to happen.
40 inches of rain was common. And in two places, Nederland and Groves, more than 60 inches fell, a year's worth of rain.
I knew a lot of people did not have flood insurance for Harvey, and the reason they would give me that they didn't have flood insurance, they felt like they would never flood. Well, never came to visit them.
64,000 homes flooded in Jefferson County, another 28,000 in Orange County, and 10,000 in Hardin County.
You tend to not put quite as much weight on a tropical storm as opposed to a full-fledged hurricane, but not so the case.
All this from a tropical storm.
Well, you know, the good news about Harvey, the chances of ever seeing another Harvey are just extremely low. You could probably live to be 300 years old and never see anything like that again. But the sobering thing to me is we would actually see worse flooding in a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, a direct hit, than we would see from Harvey.
Every tropical system poses some threat, but each has its own footprint.
So you have several elements here coming together. So it's not unlike a tornado itself, which is just a wind event. It does not have storm surge, normally does not produce flooding. Hurricane is a multifaceted storm.
September 2005, Hurricane Rita, a Category 3 storm, hits just east of the Texas-Louisiana border. Sustained winds of more than 110 miles per hour lashed southeast Texas for hours.
Probably 4 or 5 hours of these hurricane force winds.
Greg Bostwick describing those winds in 2005.
But a hurricane is almost an animal when it's coming in. It reminds me, and the winds are blowing like there's demons howling. That's what it sounds like. You know, it's hard to describe the sound, but it sounds like it's alive.
The wind uprooted, toppled, and broke a quarter of the area's trees. The electrical power system, all but destroyed, would take days to weeks to restore.
When you're talking about a hurricane and you're coupling, tornado plus force winds coupled along with the amount of moisture that's going to soak up in the atmosphere, so it doesn't take as much wind to topple these huge trees that have been growing for years and years and years in the area because of the unsteady ground.
But an evacuation moved most people out of harm's way. The storm surge hit a relatively unpopulated area in Louisiana. But it was a different story with Hurricane Ike. September 2008, and southeast Texas evacuated again in advance of a hurricane. The Category 2 storm pushed in seawater, a storm surge. The levee protection system surrounding southern Jefferson County held, but outside of the levee, nearby Bridge City went underwater.
If we're telling you that it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad.
Those who didn't heed the evacuation order had to be rescued from their rooftops.
The people of southeast Texas need to listen to those warnings and have a plan. Because if you have a plan, it could save your life, your family's life, your friend's life. Possessions can be replaced, your life can't.
We learn from our own experiences and from the experiences of others. How our sister station in New Bern, North Carolina coped with Hurricane Florence. The year 2018 will be remembered for two devastating hurricanes. Florence and Michael caused nearly $50 billion in damage, according to NOAA. Lessons learned from the storms can help keep your family safer. Florence reminded us hurricanes are about much more than just winds. Our sister station in New Bern, North Carolina was many miles from the eye's landfall, but our team lost their station when water stormed ashore.
When this storm was coming in, it just looked different. Different angle, different intensity.
This storm is a monster.
This thing was going to make a run towards our coast as a Cat 4 or maybe even a weak Cat 5.
It's big
It's going to cover pretty much all North Carolina.
and it's vicious.
This had the potential of being a catastrophic storm.
It is an extremely dangerous,
This is serious.
life-threatening,
Scared, yeah.
historic hurricane.
It was a perfect storm.
Our station is about 500 yards from the Neuse River. We started continuous coverage about 4:30 that morning.
Your emergency officials are asking you to evacuate.
Began to watch the storm coming in. We had crews out.
I called Mike McCormick up. He said, go to Morehead City. When I got down there, I saw sailboats that kind of broke free. I remember jumping out, shooting this aluminum siding, just blowing down the street.
And I went out to meet with one of the field crews that were out, and it seemed to be coming up a little bit quicker than what we were expecting.
Ariel, show us what you're seeing right now.
It's been non-stop. I'm gonna get the mic out of the way. Just a ton of rain right here.
It's an eerie feeling when you're driving on the road and you're the only person out there listening to these tornado warnings.
Hazard, tornado. Source, radar indicated rotation. Impact, flying debris will be dangerous to those caught without shelter.
Early in the evening, as we were watching the different points where we thought water could come in, water started coming over our escape route, and so we made the decision to go on and evacuate the station.
We have the situation that has developed here at the station, and that is that the water getting close to the building, that the building has been evacuated.
We were able to switch our coverage to our Myrtle Beach station so we could continue tracking the storm and providing information for our viewers.
As we told you earlier, we had to evacuate our building, and now we're being told that our sister station in Myrtle Beach is going to continue our coverage so that we can continue the evacuation of this building because of the rising water. So we're going to take you now to the coverage from our sister station in Myrtle Beach.
It was just a deflating feeling.
It was those persistent northeast winds that continued to pile up water in so many places.
In fact, Florence was like a bulldozer, but this time instead of pushing dirt, she was pushing water.
We've been on the air for our sister station in New Bern, WCTI, because the crews were forced to evacuate their own building overnight.
We are going to still continue to cover this storm. Again, this is going to go down as a historic storm for us here in eastern North Carolina.
Hey guys, now that it's morning, we're starting to see a little more of the flooding and the damage of what's going on.
Downtown, there's like this little circle. I look up, and it looks like there's like a tugboat there. So I jump out immediately. I start putting the dish up.
The deck at Persimmon's restaurant usually busy with activity, but today not the kind of activity you'd want to see.
Before the storm, we positioned a satellite truck at our transmitter. We were feeding that up to satellite and down, and we were able to get an engineer out to the transmitter who turned the truck on, and boom, all of a sudden we were on the air.
And someone came up to me and said, hey, that's Lieutenant Governor Forrest.
I told him what had happened to the station and that we needed to get some information out to people.
What's the biggest thing you want people to know?
I think, that, again, it's still not over. I know it's hard for people to believe that. So this is what one of the roads look like as I'm driving down the river walk. You can still see how the water's coming through over the seawall. Again, a lot of these people have basements.
Bill next door here, he has water in his house. He said that since the house has been built, there's never been water in that house. So, and that was, he talked about 1700s.
You can come in.
Okay.
So this is the formal sitting area. And as you can see, the water came up above the couch. This was actually sitting adjacent to this corner here.
Mayor Dana Outlaw, and thank you so much for coming out. I know you're busy right now. What's the first thing you want the folks at home to know?
The safety of our citizens. This is still an event. It's not over.
We're still stuck in these heavy bands, and what we're concerned about here is areas like Newport, like Burgal, Rose Hill, Magnolia.
And we just slowly kept finding a way to keep going. It just kept going and going and going until we had done 6 hours of coverage that day. We're all just drenched through and through, and we were excited to know the television station was back on the air. And what a gut punch when you walked in the station and you saw the water, you saw the mud on the ground. And while we'd only taken maybe 6 inches of water, the destruction was unbelievable. The smell when you walked in, it was so pungent. We had to keep the news going. We sent Carl Puglisi out, go scout a location for us to do news that night.
And for some reason I said, oh, let me go down this street and just see how bad it is.
And he found an area, it's only about 10 blocks from the television station.
Beach Street is a block away from the Neuse River.
It just looked like a wall of water had come through. It came under these houses on the river that were on stilts, and the water just rushed under, and there was this neighborhood of about 8 or 10 houses, and they were just all flattened. I mean, there was concrete steps about 3 up, and it was one of the highest points in the neighborhood.
Want to walk you through exactly where we are right now. We've been off the air since Thursday, but bringing you live broadcasts again.
So we did the newscast for 6. Now what are we going to do for 11? It was pitch black on Beach Street. We strategically parked every vehicle to light up the street.
It was kind of surreal that you're surrounded by people's stuff everywhere that you could look.
This is our commitment to you to get you the very latest information you need and your loved ones need.
Also remember, the governor will be here tomorrow, and there are reports that the president will be too.
Good night. A community struggles to overcome after the storm. Why New Bern Strong became a rallying cry for hope. In mid-September of 2018, Hurricane Florence drenched the Carolinas for days. The majority of the storm damage was from rain inland, sending rivers over their banks. The severe flooding lasted for weeks. The recovery will take years. But there's one thing Florence could not drown. The worst of times brought out the best of people, and we learned a new phrase, New Bern Strong.
We found restaurants flooded, houses damaged.
We heard a loud thud and looked out, and the chimney had fallen off the side of the house.
People's roofs peeled off.
And probably a minute later, the roof just started peeling off.
This is so terrible.
It's pretty bad. It looks like it's a total loss.
People started kind of emerging from their houses.
The concrete got lifted up out of the ground.
I knew it was going to be bad. Pictures don't tell you the whole story until you see it, and you think this is where you were hoping to retire.
This is truly a tragedy.
This was the amazing part. People that had lost almost everything, and they were upbeat. They were positive. They would tell us, well, you know what, we're all right, we're fine, we all made it. There are people that are worse off than us.
The biggest thing is I went in those shelters. We had church services in all 3 shelters around New Bern yesterday. And the spirit and the faith is strong. That's what's made New Bern what it is for 300 years. And it's going to be that way for the next 300.
And then we broke down again, and we had to be on the move. What were we going to do next? How were we going to bring viewers to where they could experience what's going on?
This is a special edition of News Channel 12.
Good evening, everyone. Valentina Wilson and Wes Goforth. We're live outside Temple Baptist Church, right in the heart of New Bern, where a huge relief effort is underway. We're talking about the Red Cross Salvation Army and North Carolina Baptist men getting food to people who need it.
Governor Roy Cooper, thank you for coming down. What have you seen around New Bern today?
Clearly, there's a lot of devastation in a historic, wonderful town that is part of North Carolina and part of our history. But I've also seen a lot of people who are determined And although frustrated, they are encouraged because of each other. They're building each other up.
We were live with the governor in the line, handing out food, talking to the people.
Did you guys get damage in your house?
Not in the house. We did lose our fridge though.
You started to hear people's stories and you were so moved, and at the same time you were still struck by how upbeat everybody was. They would all say, well, you know, don't worry about us, we're fine. You know, there's other people that are worse off than us. We'll get through this. I began to understand this New Bern spirit. They call it New Bern Strong.
It's a beautiful day.
The worst is over, you know. We've been scared to death with the water.
It's drying out. We've removed the debris.
I woke him up at 3:30 in the morning. I said, it's coming over the porch.
It don't look good now, but we'll give it a little time. People in New Bern are resilient. We've been through it before.
Anytime you felt like you were tired, you felt like you were hungry, we were wet for several days, you never stopped and complained about your situation because everybody around us was so much worse and they were in good spirits. How could you not be? We took people to the intersection of news and humanity and showed them what was really happening in a personal way that couldn't be done from a television station.
Hurricane Florence was one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the Carolinas. To the families who have lost loved ones, America grieves with you, and our hearts break for you.
Hey, we're live here at Temple Baptist Church in New Bern. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see the scene at Temple Baptist. They're handing food to the people in the drive-thru here. I can only imagine the surprise they get when they pull up and see their meals being handed to them by President Trump.
President meeting a lot of people in New Bern along North Craven Street, Val, and then River Drive, who had lost really everything, and you know, giving them a lot of hope.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Our community's a close one.
Thank you.
How's it doing really well. It's rough, but we're close.
So you've never seen one like this?
Never.
You've been here for years and you haven't seen it?
Over 30 years.
Hey, it's got to be close to, hey, we're going to be with you. You know that. We're with you already.
After the governor's tour with the president, he came here to the fire department in Newport, where he spent time with first responders, and I saw him offering a lot of words of encouragement.
What we've seen is the resilience and spirit of North Carolinians. We've seen a lot of damage, but we've also seen people who were filled with hope and determination to rebuild.
Really grateful for sunshine.
And it's just such a sweet town. Couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
Nope. We're handing out homemade cookies to bring happiness back to New Bern.
Just trying to brighten people's days and just get through this hard time, really.
Here's cookies for all of you guys.
For all of you guys.
Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
We can't cut down trees and we're not electricians or anything, but we can bake and cook. So.
Would you like some cookies? Of course.
New Bern, here.
You're just doing this to make us happy.
We're trying.
Exactly.
Just something sweet to brighten your day.
We'll get it back.
Right. We'll get all this trash out, and then the grass will grow again.
When people get back down here, we'll get this cleaned up.
Hey, we survived.
We survived, yes. We call us the Wade House survivors.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to come back tomorrow, bake some more.
Yep.
It'll get better. It'll get better.
We should never say if we get hit by a hurricane, but when we get hit. It's inevitable. We will face a threat from the tropics, maybe this year, maybe in years to come, but you can be ready. Forecasting tropical storms is improving.
The technology is much better than it was.
But we're better at predicting where a storm will hit than how strong it will be.
The intensity is just impossible to forecast at times. We just say, here's the range of possibilities. And a lot of times the range of possibilities, we err on the side of the low side, to be honest with you.
So what you can do now, gather and protect your important papers and keep some supplies on hand.
Well, I just found out that they have turned the water off.
Everybody hush, I will not open up the doors at all.
What do you need to sustain you and your family for a few days with roads and stores closed and no power?
But I think it all comes down to common sense. Bottled water, ample amount of bottled water, keep some flashlight, ample batteries.
Make sure you have your medications. That's the big thing. You run out of medications and you can't get to Walgreens or wherever, Walmart or wherever your pharmacy is.
Have those portable charging devices as a part of your hurricane preparedness kit.
Can y'all go get someone for us?
Make a plan with your family and make it in advance of the storm.
It goes into part of preparation. If you do have to evacuate, where are you going to go? Are you going to go towards Shreveport? Are you going to go towards College Station? Are you going to go east? And it also depends on where the storm is coming from too.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because you have to decide where you're going to go, first of all. That's one of the biggest questions. A lot of people say, oh, I'll just call the Holiday Inn in Shreveport. Well, the Holiday Inn in Shreveport's going to be full by the time you get there. Well, you better have probably in the back of your mind some friend or relative you can stay with in North Texas, Oklahoma, someplace like that.
Take evacuation orders seriously. If you can't evacuate on your own, pre-register by calling 211 for transportation. Trying to survive during and after a storm hits could cost you your life.
It only takes one.
Talk to the people who stayed for some of the hurricanes that we've had. They'll probably tell you that that was a mistake. It only takes one, and you don't want to necessarily have that one be your last one.
This is meant as a starting point. We've seen what has happened. We've tried to imagine the worst that could happen. It's now up to our communities and ourselves to remain vigilant, be prepared, and face whatever comes our way together.